you don't need money to feel like you're having a life of meaning and purpose and satisfaction. You need to have status. And so, you know, you can have a job you hate, but if you love jiu-jitsu and you're getting good at jiu-jitsu, then that's going to be your meaning and purpose. And you know, ideally, you make your job the thing that you're good at. And again, it doesn't matter if it's not bringing in six figures or whatever you would hope to earn, because if you've got that status in your everyday life, then you are going to have generally speaking, a life of meaning and satisfaction and purpose, because that's really what the brain wants. It isn't money. It's only money as such as a symbol of status. I mean, that's why when you look at does money make you happy? Once you've got enough money to survive and without worrying too much about your bills and this, that, and the other, once a lack of money isn't an active source of stress, it doesn't really. It sort of really tails off. It's, you know, like it's just.
And when average wages go up each year, we don't get the average population feeling better.
No, exactly. And when you go around the world, it's not as if the richer countries are happier than the poorer countries. I mean, if anyone's done any traveling, you know, Africa isn't full of miserable people. I have to tell you, you know, like you know, it's just not how it works. It just really isn't. What we want is status. What we want to feel is valued and respected. And it, you know, especially if you're male, the root to that is competence. Get good at something, and then once you get good at something, that's you. You know, that's your life now.
It's annoying at school where sport wasn't really pushed on me. It was like, you can play football if you want, and you know, the most important things, you must learn history. You know, or you must learn French. Yeah. You must learn all the things that I just have absolutely no use for at the moment. And then you go to university, and university is actually a cock-off. And I find that academia is a massive cock-off in itself. And you find that people play just status games all the way to the top to being the smartest in the room.
Yeah.
And then they get disgruntled at other people, like, oh, this inferior, intelligent being has a nicer car than me, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's been an incredible looking status. We spoke about storytelling before earlier. And I don't believe you were aware that Andrew Schultz read your book and
I didn't know. Yeah,
did his latest stand-up, the Life Tour. I'm almost positive it's on Chris's episode, and it got me to go back and reread it. And to some people potentially listening, they go, "Oh, I'm not really that interested in stories." They watch Netflix. Don't get me wrong; they love a good movie. They're excited to watch the new F1 film, but storytelling is not that important. And then there'll be some marketers listening that want to grow a YouTube channel, and they'll go, "Yeah, but I just want to get my 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Storytelling is not important to me." But storytelling is everything when it comes to humans.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, we are the storytelling animal. We experience ourselves in story form. We experience our lives in story form. Our brain tries to understand what's going on in the form of a story. You know, the brain didn't evolve to process data and do maths, you know, equations. It evolved to tell stories. So you know, it really is the kind of skeleton key to understanding the human condition, understanding storytelling. You know, the human brain remixes the chaos of reality and turns it into this narrative. It puts you at the center of the world, and you're the hero, and you're overcoming your obstacles in pursuit of your goals. And that is the definition of a story.
There's Ryan Holiday with Ego is the Enemy. I felt personally attacked in that, where he says, you tell yourself a story. The danger is if you start to believe it. And I've seen kind of echoes of this in your work. Whoever read whose book first, I don't know. We're about to judge. But the danger is that if I was to look back at maybe 2017, I was waking up at 6 a.m. every morning, going live on Facebook and doing a 45-minute live. And then as 2018 creeps around and I'm starting to see the business do well, the followers increase, sometimes I could all too easily think, oh, I'm a charismatic bugger, aren't I? Oh, I've got a good bit of banter. Or you can even see the comments go, oh, bro, you're the funniest. And then I stopped doing the lives as often and the business had a slump. And I was just reading the book at the right time where I go, oh, the story you tell yourself says this, but the reality is actually, it wasn't all those things that you credit. It was the hard work. It was the early mornings. It was the getting up at 5 o'clock and getting a train across Sydney to sit in a fucking shopping center before it opens to your live streams. The problem with storytelling as well, it can also it can be a villain to our own movie arc, because if we believe it, we stop doing the very things that gave us success in the first place.
Yeah, so that's right. So the default, and I would suggest the healthiest way that we can see ourselves in the story of a life is the underdog. So there's a reason why the underdog is such a universally popular archetype in storytelling, and that's because to an ordinary healthy human being, we see ourselves as an underdog. So we see, and what an underdog is, somebody who is worthy and deserving of higher status, but hasn't quite got it yet, and has to. And there are some obstacles to overcome before we get the status that we're due. Now, the kind of the hero at the end of the story in Act 3, you know, Luke Skywalker, when he's getting his golden medal, you don't want to see yourself like that because that's going to piss everybody off and it's going to make you lazy. What you want to see yourself is that Act 1 hero who's still the underdog, who's still got all those kind of mountains to climb and all those obstacles to overcome in order to get what they want.
So every single story that we watch, there's actually we're not just being entertained. We kind of use that as a label. What we're doing is we're looking at something and imagining ourselves in that. And without being able to feel connected to that story as if it was our own, we wouldn't enjoy it as much.
That's right. So that's why we are obsessed with stories, whether it's gossip or whether it's movies or books. And you know why? Why do we all flock to the cinema or flock to Netflix? It's because, as I said before, the three things that all humans want: survival, connection, and status. And so all stories are about those three things. All archetypal stories are about those three things, and probably all stories, even crazy kind of postmodern ones. So if you think about you know, a movie like The Revenant, that's a survival story. It's about a man being chased by a bear. If you think about movies like, you know, stories like Stand By Me or Notting Hill, there's a connection story. It's about friendship, about love. You think about Barbie or Whiplash, those are about status. Those are status stories. So the reason that we love those stories is because the stories begin, we identify with the characters, and the characters are lacking in survival. You know, their survival is threatened. They're lacking in connection. They're lacking in status. And then we're going to learn how are they going to get their survival with their connection and status. So that we become addicted to it because it's full of information about how to get what we want. Now, if you think about the timeless stories, the best stories that have ever been told, the stories that we can watch and watch and watch and watch again. Think about Star Wars, think about The Godfather, think about Romeo and Juliet. Those stories are about survival and connection and status in pretty much equal quantities. You know, The Godfather is about all of those things. Star Wars is about all of those things. Romeo and Juliet is about all of those things. So that's why, as I believe, those stories are so timeless, because to our subconscious brains, they're absolutely packed with information about how we get those three things that we want so obsessively: survival, connection, status.
I've seen somewhere that almost every single film that's ever been filmed is the same 5 story plots over and over again. And I never realized that Taken and Finding Nemo have the same story plot. They're just vastly different.
Yeah, sometimes they say 7. I mean, but like if you think of it, yeah, it's right. So I mean, Harry Potter and Star Wars have almost identical plots as well. So yeah, that's, you know, we are telling the same stories over and over again, and it tends to be like a 5-act plot. So the story begins where you get an identifiable character who is lacking in survival or connection or status, or one of those three things. And in a good story, it's because, you know, they've got external obstacles ranged against them, but there's also an internal obstacle as well. That's the interesting stories, where there's something wrong with the way I'm seeing the world, or I've got some sort of personality problem that's preventing me from getting what I want. Act 2 is that they start experimenting with a new way of being. Sometimes like a guru or a teacher will come in to help them learn the ways of this new world. Then in Act 3, they'll transform and they'll become this new version of themselves. Act 4 will be all the negative ramifications of transformation will come and attack them, and they'll struggle and they'll doubt. And then in Act 5, there's a final confrontation where they'll finally choose to be this new person.